Whoa. I'll grab that here in a second. Hello again, and I can't believe that it actually did that. For those of y'all who heard that loud thud, if the camera caught it, that was me fumbling and knocking over my Xbox controller. But I am actually going to do another regular lesser known but awesome heroes, and I'm going to do one DC character, one Marvel character before I prep for the Green Lantern Corps edition, you know, to prepare for Green Lantern coming out. I'll do another preview like I did last time, because some of you actually liked that Thor preview, and so I may do another one just to kind of hype the videos up. But I'm going to do a DC character and a Marvel character of my choice before I get back to some of the regular requests and whatnot. And I think you're going to like the DC character that I chose. It's a pretty obscure one, but one that but one of my top 10 favorite DC characters. Yes, that is right. For those of you who can see these blurry as crap pictures, I will be talking today about DC's Harry Houdini, Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle is one of my top 10 favorite DC characters, and I'm going to waste no time here in getting squared away. As always, the camera is on my lap, so if you see any sudden fluctuations, like stuff like this, it's just me moving the camera around with my legs. Try to keep the camera centered on the pictures and not so much where you can see my TV and stuff. There we go. But there have been 3 men that have taken the name of Mr. Miracle. The original was a circus escape artist whose stage name was Mr. Miracle, and that man was Thaddeus Brown. And he was, of course, the very first person to use the name Mr. Miracle. And he actually mentored the second and third Mr. Miracles. However, he was murdered. He was murdered by a mobster named Steel Hand. And really, they don't really give much biography information on Brown. So that's pretty much all I can tell you. However, the second to take up the mantle of Mr. Miracle is probably the most recognized version of Mr. Miracle, and that is Mr. Miracle number 2, otherwise known as, wait for it, Scott Free. No, I am not making that up, or no, I shit you not. That's his actual name is Scott Free. And what makes Scott really interesting is that he is the son of Highfather. Yes, so he is the prince and heir to the throne of New Genesis, and he is the... Sorry, I got ahead of myself there. He is the prince of the New Gods, and he is the heir to the throne of New Genesis. Yeah. So... And as an act of diplomatic a diplomatic move, he traded places with Darkseid's second-born son Orin, and he grew up in one of Granny Goodness's terror orphanages, as it was called, and he didn't even know that he was the Prince of New Genesis. But as he actually matured, he rebelled against the philosophy and ideology of Apocalypse, and he beat himself up because he couldn't fit in. Let's see. Trying to think of how to word this. I guess the best way to put this is the way that I have it compiled in my research notes. That he was basically a pupil. He was a major pacifist. That's one of the main things about Mr. Miracle that I like, is that the man is an extreme pacifist. Like, even if a fly is annoying the crap out of him, he will not hurt it. Simply because in Scott's mind, you know, he doesn't want to fight unless it's absolutely necessary, and usually he only wants to fight in defense or beat people by means of like, you know, parlor tricks, you know, like stun grenades and, you know, like tranquilizer darts and like sleeping gas and etc., etc. And I like that. I think that that's a very unique trait, shall we say. And what's really interesting is that when he became Mr. Miracle, he took a lot of apocalyptic technology, and that's where a lot of his parlor tricks and stuff that he uses, like his boots. His boots actually can magnetically be inclined to where he can walk up any surface. As you can see in this one picture here at the bottom, of course you can't see it because it's cut off by the bottom of my TV, but he has these little like hover discs that protrude out of his boots, and it actually allows him to glide across the air and fly. He's got all these. He's even got like this decoy thing, I think, in his belt, like a decoy maker that puts like these holographic illusions of himself. And so on and so forth. I mean, he's got... Mr. Miracle is probably the second most gadget-savvy person compared to Batman. Like, he's got a retarded amount of gadgets that he employs. And what I think is really great about Mr. Miracle is that he's teamed up with many different heroes. Probably he's done a lot of Brave and the Bold type stuff with Batman, but he's also done a few issues where he has teamed up with Superman. Like, I think one issue that I read in my DC Showcase Superman team-ups, Mr. Miracle basically challenges Superman for, you know, the hero of Metropolis. Who's going to rule being the hero? And it was all a ploy by Mr. Miracle to basically help Superman from being assassinated by Intergang, who had basically found a large auric, you know, like chunkish ore of kryptonite, and they fashioned it into bullets that they were going to shoot the Man of Steel with. And so Mr. Miracle does this elaborate Olympic Games type contest between him and Superman. And I thought that that was a really cool, like, silver to Bronze Age inspired issue. Because in that issue we kind of see just how elaborate and cool Mr. Miracle is. Also, getting back to his origins here, on Apocalypse he had met with all these pupils, and one of those pupils happened to be his wife, Big Barda. And he actually escaped out of a prison. They put him in a prison that was inescapable, and he was going to rot there for the rest of his life. However, Mr. Miracle did the impossible and even surprised and angered Darkseid, because Darkseid lost a little bit of influence over the people of Apocalypse, because Scott pulled the impossible, this inescapable apocalyptic prison, and he actually escaped it. And that became, like, you know, a, shall we say, a negative tally on Darkseid's reign, but also on the prison, because then people started saying, you know, well, you know, yeah, you know, it's supposed to be inescapable, that, well, then how come, you know, the son of Highfather escaped? And so Mr. Miracle has gained infamy on Apocalypse for that, and he's gained renown on not only Earth, but on new genesis, or at least among the heroes of Earth, you know, that he escaped this prison and escaped Darkseid's clutches. When he escaped, he fled to Earth. However, Darkseid did anticipate and plan this. He actually nullified the pact, and basically Darkseid wanted an excuse to revive the war with New Genesis because he wanted to conquer it. And the reason being, well, let's face it, it's Darkseid. He's evil as hell. I mean, come on, it's Darkseid. Does he really need a reason? Don't worry about the pictures popping up there at the bottom, guys. My Xbox controller shuts off and the screen goes black. So if you see that during any of the videos and whatnot, have no fear, that's just me keeping the controller from shutting off and the screen from going really, really black. But anyway, getting back to the task at hand. And once on Earth, Scott became the prodigal of a circus escape artist. Going back to Thaddeus Brown. And Brown was impressed with Scott's skills, especially as supplemented with various enhanced devices he had taken from his prison. And I think what's great about that, and also when Thaddeus Brown got murdered, Scott assumed the identity of Mr. Miracle. Barda later followed Scott to Earth, and the two actually used their powers, equipment, and skills against Darkseid. And Darkseid wanted to recapture both of them. And eventually, tired of being hounded by Darkseid, Scott returns to Apocalypse and wins his freedom